Okay, here we are on the 11th of Tammuz. Hayom Yom. In the Tanya edition, published in Zoltvi in the year, if you take the letters of the year, it spells the word Masa Toiv, herald of good, which is numerically equivalent to 5559 or 1799. So in that year, in the Tanya published in that year, the first version of Igeres HaTshuva was printed. That's, of course, what we're learning, Igeres HaTshuva. It was not divided into chapters, and there are variances from the present text in content. Tanya, evolution of the Tanya. And here it is. Lessons in Tanya, page 1025. And it should be on page 184. Down from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. The line begins with abbreviation Gimel Pei. All right. So having first established that fasting is not what we mean when we talk about Shuvah. Fasting is an extra special gift to Hashem, to restore oneself to the loving embrace of our Father in heaven. And having said that, the Alter Rebbe has begun to enumerate various prescriptions for how many fasts a person should fast who wants to bring this gift, and how many for different averas that are all have been constituted by the Bali Musar in the past. Having said that, he's about to tell us, before we get into intermittent fasting or other ways of accomplishing, of actually doing the fast, he tells us today that fasting is not for everybody. Okay, we're going on inside. Everything that we've said is in reference to a strong person, uboria, and healthy. She'ein riboy hatzomos, where the fasting, whatever the amount of fasts are, those fasts will not maziklo, will not damage the person at all. Librius gufo, or affect that person's health. Everything we've said, even the way we're going to subsequently even minimize the amount of fasting. Everyone has to know themselves. And as he's about to say, it's a isur gomer, it's a complete forbiddenness of the Torah to fast if you're going to damage your health. In the early days, when people were worked with everybody except for the real businessmen and Talmidei Chachamim, everyone was engaged in manual labor. And that was one factor in why everyone was healthier, stronger. And maybe there are other factors that have to do with the descent of the generations, perhaps. But in any case, he says that in former generations, people were stronger. But a person who doing a lot of fasting is going to damage himself or herself, which could bring about some kind of illness or weakness. And maybe they're saying, "Nu Ela," as is the case in our generations today. It's forbidden to that person to increase, multiply fasts. Even on the third and worst kind of sin, where a person is guilty and the punishment is being cut off or dying before your time, the most serious of errors. It's isur to fast if that's going to cause damage to your health. On this was and how much more so if it's forbidden for the most serious sins. Of course, it's forbidden for the so-called lighter sins, mitzvahs aseh, mitzvahs leisat and behem koros, which don't have the punishment of koros. a person has to be honest with him or herself and literally measure out to yourself. So that if you fast, however the number of fasts that are prescribed or the other combinations that the Chachamim have allowed or said can be done instead of the total number of fasts, the fasting has to be done only if you're healthy and that you know it's not going to damage you at all. Because even in the old days, the original days, you made Tanoim Amaroim in the days of the Tanoim and the Amaroim of the Mishnah and the Torah. They didn't fast like this. Only those who are healthy. Who are able to cause pain to themselves, which any fast does, right? Without damaging themselves. When only when they weren't damaging themselves, and that's when they would fast. And if you did fast and damage, and it causes damage, or if you know it's going to cause damage and you're fasting, Nikra Choyte, the Gemara, you're called a sinner in the Gemara. Perakama the Tainus in the first parak of Gemara Tainus, which is the whole Gemara about fasting. Tainus. And even if you're fasting because you know you have sins and you are maybe even in it says in your hand, would imply that you're even in the midst of sinning. The Pirush Rashi Shon, as Rashi says, as is written, he quotes there, the first paragraph of Zevachim. There's no person, there's no Jewish person who at least doesn't have some guilt in terms of transgressing at least a mitzvah's aseh, some mitzvah's aseh. From a culture, how much more so, Mishahu Bal Torah, someone who's a master of Torah, meaning immersed in Torah all the time, Shechoita, who sins, and then it's Bikaflayim. And that person, because he's a Bal Torah, it's worse, the Avera that he did, because he sinning, he knows better. He machmas chalishis hatainus, but if he were to fast, he would become weak, and he wouldn't be able to do his avodah the way he needs to. Here we're speaking about a Talmud Chacham, and where there's avodah is, or even sometimes it's called his profession. His Torah is his profession, but that's a huge avodah to continue occupied in Torah. And if fasting of any sort will weaken you, so then it's an avera to do that. As you said, it's an isur goyim, it's a complete isur. He didn't say goyim, but they said forbidden, it's isur. So what should you do? You want to do this. You want to appeal to God at his heart and bring a heartfelt offering to him. What do you do? Receive, as it's written, it says, I will redeem you can redeem your fasting with tzedakah. The Mashikos is written, Hapoiskim, the ones who paskin halacha, Liten ba'ad kol yom tainus, so you should give an amount of tzedakah, or each day that you're obligated for the fasting. This tainus spelled shuva, erech chai gedoyle polish. 18 gedoyle polish is literally a big Polish coin, which had a certain value, apparently quite a large value. Maybe it's like a gold coin today, but it's 18 gedolim polish. Now, Asher Yosef, and if you're rich, add more money, give more tzedakah. L'fi Esher, according to your richness. Mishikosav HaMagen Avram, as the Magen Avram writes in Hilchos Tainus, in his Shulchan Aruch, the Magen Avram, about Hilchos Tainus. That's today's time. Comments, questions? Pretty straightforward. All right, and so we will go on and talk about what somebody got before, I think, called intermittent fasting, other ways of doing if you are going to fast. how to minimize it, but still fulfill the halachic measure that's it's constituted by doing different ways of fasting. Okay?
Okay, I was just gonna say that it's a lot of money, and are people like expected?
No,
Because
no. He says, so ha'osha, if you're rich,
no, but if you're not rich, if you're regular,
yeah,
then 18 gedolei polish for every, like, let's say
when,
it's 252 fasts that you're supposed to do, so it's 18 for every one.
hello. This is only for the rich person. Ha'osha yosef, how much it costs am I going to run? Then you add. You add as much, and you give according to. Oh, the whole theme is don't damage yourself. To impoverish yourself by giving away money that you need for food would be total violation. That would be an issue. We won't be healthy enough to do mitzvahs. So you have to make your own cheshbon. He's just using as an example. If you have a lot of money, give more.
Mhm.
You would be a fool to give more than you need to maintain a sufficient degree of health and strength to serve Hashem. And remember, this is not tshuva. This is the gift after tshuva. Of course, we all want to do that. We want all to get back in the good graces and have hugged and brought close by Hashem. So this is if you're motivated to do this. Remember, the Gemara says that in these generations, even then, it was forbidden to fast, right? In these cases. So you have a way of establishing that gift. That's the key word is that doesn't damage you. And you have to know yourself and your means as to what's going to damage you. Okay. Peace. Till we meet again.